Now it will be moving on to history and context with starting off with Karina.
This is an aerial view of our site. It is located on the south side of Madison by Winger Creek. The history of Madison's south side demonstrates why community investment is important in this area. Prior to 1850, the south side Madison was mostly wetland, which was mostly wetland, which made land undesirable and cheaper. This affordable land brought in European immigrants and increasingly after World War II, African American residents. In the 1950s, the city of Madison, which was expanding increasingly, forced low-income residents to move out of South Madison, forcibly buying homes in low-income neighborhoods for redevelopment. The neighborhoods were predominantly dense Black immigrant neighborhoods. Madison made conscious decisions to spread the poverty around the county. Today, there are about 15 different impoverished pockets within Dane County. These residential communities tend to be small, socially isolated, and lacking the institutions and networks to provide meaningful support. One of these pocketed neighborhoods is located on South Madison Park Street in Census Tract 14.01, located just south of the Labor Temple site. This history is why it is important for redevelopment to support current residents of Madison.
I will now be talking about the historical context of the Madison Labor Temple. It was built in 1958 and used as a central meeting place and headquarters for the local labor organizations. In the late 50s, labor unions were growing substantially, and for this reason, they decided to build the Labor Temple. The Labor Temple provides community spaces for union laborers and the public. They have rooms to rent out and space for the union members. Two notable community organizations, such as the Workers' Justice Wisconsin and Base de la Frontera, also work with the Labor Temple. The Southside Farmers Market, Labor Fest, and Juneteenth celebration all also take place on the site. The Labor Temple is outdated and outgrowing its tenants. The property is now selling for $7.9 million, and they want to maintain the space for the Labor Temple Association. The union labor must be also used in the construction of the redeveloped site. Understanding the history of the building and how it's currently used can help us up with ways on how to repurpose and modify while maintaining the services and events that currently take place on the site. Currently, South Madison is by far the most racially and economically diverse area of Madison, says Lindsay Lee, owner of Cargo Coffee on South Park Street. Peng Her, project director of South Madison Promozone, says, "It's truly a neighborhood where diverse communities can come together and celebrate each other and their cultures. It's the type of energy that will move the entire city." There is a mix of residential buildings, including apartment complexes and well-maintained older houses. The south side also consists of a lot of restaurants that represents the community's culture and history. Development is also rising on South Park Street. They are planning on building a new residential housing, a new fire station, a public health clinic, and a parking structure. Now, Karina will go more in depth on the community organizations in their area and their importance.
There are many organizations that work for the community, bringing people together and supporting people who live in the neighborhood. We wanted to highlight a couple of these nonprofits because they aren't there to just take up space. They're there because they help and offer opportunities to people who don't have many opportunities. We also want to make sure that our proposal continues the amazing work that these nonprofits are doing for the neighborhood. Now Amal will be talking about data and statistics.
As you guys can see, this image shows where the Labor Temple lays on. The Labor Temple is in Census Tract 13. Census Tract 14.1 is being used because it is relevant to our proposal and future information. Our information was gathered all upon both census tracts as our study area. During this time, we realized how much differences both census tracts have and was found during our research. Now moving on to demographics. This bar graph compares the racial makeup of both Census Tract 13 and Census Tract 14.1 in the overall city of Madison. Census Tract 14.1 is much more diverse compared to Census Tract 13 in the overall city of Madison, with a lower percentage of white residents at 27% and a higher percentage of Hispanic or Latino residents at 26%. Additionally, Census Tract 14.1 has 13% Black or African American residents than Census Tract 13 to the south. Also, a lot of people in Census Tract 14.1 is where our main proposals and ideas are aimed towards. Now moving on to Emily.
Now we'll be talking about poverty and unemployment as well as housing in the area. There are 2,726 dwelling units in Census Tract 14.01 and 1,883 dwelling units in Census Tract 13. Census Tract 14.01 has the highest family and poverty rate, being 27.7%, which is much larger in comparison to Madison's 6.6%. This contrasts the unemployment rate where Census Tract 14.01 stands at 0.2% and Madison as 2.7%, and showing how the history of displacement has created a low-income pocketed neighborhood. The median housing cost monthly in Madison is $1,386. For Census Tract 14.01, the cost is $1,145 and $1,230 for Census Tract 13. Census Tract 13 makes $108,500 yearly. Meanwhile, 14.01 makes $49,959. Madison median income is around $70,000. There is a profound difference in the rent and income of people in both census tracts. Here's a brief representation of where some apartment units are located around our site. These units are within walking distance of the Labor Temple, offering affordable options like income restricted and Section 8 housing. The building 1202 South Park Street is currently under development and will be a mixed-use building providing affordable housing for young people exiting foster care. There are many housing units with access to our site that we aim to serve with a proposed redesign. We now will be passing it to Oscar that will be talking about education and age groups.
Here is data on the percentage of each census tract as well as how it impacts the city's youth and the area we focused on. If we take a look on the topic parent education, you will see 0% of parents who live within Census Tract 13 have less than a high school diploma. But if you compare that to Census Tract 14.01, more than 25% of parents who live within that census tract haven't even graduated high school. Although there is 3 times more disadvantaged students in Census Tract 14.1 than Census Tract 13. Now we can understand why there's more of a struggle to graduate in Census Tract 14.01 than Census Tract 13. As more of a high mobility student as well as 10.9, and if we relate that Census Tract 13 of 6.5, we can see the differential of life challenges of both census tracts. Now we know help should be especially accommodated towards Census Tract 14.01 for the upcoming graduates in all student youth education. Moving on to the age group slide, as well as help with my peer Gosimo. Our side proposal is geared towards the neighborhoods of families with young children and teenagers who live within Census Tract 13 and 14.01. For example, 26% of the people who live within Census Tract 14.1 are under the age of 19. This is a large number of people who are still in their youth, and you can compare that to both Dane County and Census Tract 13. There are still way more children in Census Tract 14.01.
What Oscar said was really important because that's a lot of people who lack representation in decision making in their communities. A lot of our proposal is geared towards the youth since they have distinct needs which are often overlooked. We want to create a space where young people can express themselves and grow positively. And we hope that by creating such space, we can keep young people away from unsafe areas, danger, and violence. Speaking of violence, one of our goals in our proposal is violence prevention. Crime is a big issue in the Labor Temple area due to a lack of services, which we hope to provide with our proposal. A specific case study I have here states, on February 11th, 2023, officers responded to a large fight involving around 100 people on the 1700 block of South Park Street. 5 shell casings were found, but no injuries were reported. Now, this isn't just a one-off incident because the stats also show a pattern of violence. This graph you can see here is about verified criminal offenses and their relation, either person-related, property-related, or society-related, as well as police calls due to behavior and disorder. As you can see from the general trend, you can see that there's a higher likelihood of a crime happening in the Labor Temple area than Madison in all categories. Some specific stats I would like to highlight are that there's a 70% higher chance of person-on-person violence happening in Census Tract 14.01 than Madison. Also, there's a 50% higher chance of property-related violences in Census Tract 13. Now, this paints the Labor Temple area as excessively violent and dangerous, but it doesn't capture the full picture. Crime is a problem, but it comes from struggle, which the Labor Temple area is full of. This is evident in the fact that over a quarter of people living in Census Tract 14.01 live in poverty, and over a quarter of the people in that same area have less than a high school diploma. My main point is that when people don't have the means to support themselves, they may turn to crime. And we hope that by reducing some of the struggle that they go through, we can reduce the violence too. Moving on to site analysis with Moises.
Circling back to the image Karina showed us earlier, we can see that our site is 3.3 acres large with a 60-unit parking lot and a grassy lawn in the front. On to zoning. Our site is situated within the CCT zone. This stands for Commercial Corridor Transitional, which means that the city wishes to make this commercial area more mixed use in the future. We are within the permitted uses of the Commercial Corridor Transitional Zone, and we will be serving the community that Madison wishes to put in the Southside area. On to transportation. Our site lies along BRT Route B, as you can see in the photo. Although pedestrian access to on Park Street is poor due to poor shading and poor crossing, Wingra bike path behind our site may provide better access. On to Mohammed for surrounding spaces.
We wanted to highlight the surrounding amenities around our site. We focused on schools, green spaces, and food access. We wanted to consider the different age groups that have access to the site and the other amenities that we have around the site. First, we wanted to highlight the different schools surrounding the Labor Temple, like Wright Middle School and Lincoln Elementary School, which is a 20-minute walk and a 3-minute drive from our site. Next, we considered the green spaces, Goodman Park and the Quam Park. Goodman Park is a 14-minute walk and Quam Park is a 19-minute walk from the site. As you can see, there are green spaces in the surrounding community, but none directly on Park Street, which is a very car-centric road. Finally, we dive a little deeper into the food access. Pick and Save is a 5-minute walk, and the Quam Park Community Garden is a 19-minute walk from our site. Now on to Issa.
Okay, so these pictures illustrate the external and internal look of the Labor Temple, like the green area used for festivals like the Music Fest, as well as the parking lot. Inside, we have the rental rooms that are used often for weddings or quinceañeras, and we also have the memorable arts and trophies. Now to our SWOT analysis. In our SWOT analysis, one of our key strengths is a sense of community fostered through regular gatherings that include the annual Labor Fest on September 1st and the Music Fest. These two will help promote community growth in the Labor Temple. The neighborhood's cultural resources and nonprofit partnerships further enhance these strengths. Importantly, this is the most diverse neighborhood in the area. There are clear strengths and opportunities, but there are also notable weaknesses such as outdated facilities like the technology, as well as limited accessibility for individuals with disabilities. For example, there are no ramps or elevators in the building, and there's also a lack of certain community amenities. Additionally, threats include limited space for expansion, potential loss of community identity, and environmental concerns such as flooding and runoff. Overall, our community's diversity and cultural richness and shared commitment to connection give it the foundation to face challenges head-on and continue building and thriving. Now moving on to the vision.
Based on our research, this is our vision for our site proposal. Our vision will improve educational opportunities, community growth, and safety. For sustainability, the proposed rain garden, park, and green space along Park Street will improve pedestrian safety and help mitigate SOT and Lake Wingra by minimizing concrete surfaces like the parking lot.
which worsens runoff. The expansion of the building will expand opportunities for the Labor Temple as well as provide spaces for the community. We want to make sure the legacy and history of the Labor Temple is included in our site. We hope to preserve the Labor Temple's murals, trophies, and other historical items in a large display. As Gassimo stated earlier, this proposal could improve public safety by offering amenities to South Park Street residents. Now Moore will be talking about our proposal of the new Labor Temple.
Thank you, Tasha. For our proposal, we want to implement a community center because our data shows that there are a lot of families in the area that don't have access to resources like this on the south side. We propose this building to be on where the empty grass field area is currently, and within this building, we want to have 3 floors instead of the current 2, with the first floor being meant for anyone in the community to use as a hangout or interactive space, especially for teens in the area who don't have places to connect with others. The second floor is dedicated to young children who can have a daycare and an after-school program. As for the third floor, we want to devote that to the people at the Labor Temple building who can continue using this space to rent out rooms for events, for public use, and for current organizations like Voces de la Frontera and Workers' Justice, who can use this space as office space. As there will also be a basement for extra resources and space. As for the outside, there will be a playground, splash pad, and basketball court to encourage activeness and which provides people the opportunity to be more active outdoors. There will also be more shading, like a pavilion, which is seen in the image above, in between the playground and basketball court. These spaces will replace the current parking lot, which will be moved up to the front to ensure the safeness of these kids. As for green space, we want to incorporate more trees to increase coolness of the site and reduce noise pollution since South Park Street is such a busy road. A rain garden would also be beneficial to reducing flooding and leaks surrounding the site since it is near Winger Creek. These spaces will provide a safe and welcoming environment for young people on the south side to access. Now, I'll bring it back to Tasha with the benefits and challenges of our proposal.
We want to create a place where the community members can come together, have fun, and build a stronger sense of community. This community center will offer opportunities to build social capital, increase outreach, and build connections. Local school groups such as the YMCA, the MSCR, and the Boys and Girls Club could have trips to the site. The proposed building will have resources and spaces to benefit all ages, from children to senior citizens, creating an inclusive environment. Our site is not profit-driven because we care more about providing community spaces for the people living in the surrounding areas than making a profit. This might make attracting developers difficult. Our proposal does not include any affordable or market-rate housing, which does not address potential needs for affordable housing in this area. We want to emphasize the importance of community spaces and third spaces for people to spend time in. Our research and experiences show us that this area needs the community spaces that we are proposing. We understand that there may be a need for housing in this area, and we know that the city may incorporate housing on this site, but we ask that parts of our proposal be considered. Now Moore will be sharing our site inspiration.
One of the first places we got our inspiration from was the Wilmar Neighborhood Center on the east side of Madison. This is the space where our internship has been working at for the past 9 weeks. And within that time, we admired its many features, including its artwork and community representation, specifically with its murals and signposts as seen in the images above. These both represent the community's values, cultures, and programs, and these both embody its inclusiveness to people of all ages in the community. Moving on to our inspiration from right here, the Madison Public Library.
The Madison Public Library is a space for the community and kids to use, as well as the vibrant and welcoming colors as you can see in the image above. The space and the welcoming colors is exactly what we like for the site. We want everyone to feel welcomed and feel like they have a safe space to go to. Now I'm going to talk about Elver Park. Elver Park was a great inspiration to us because it captures the vibrant playground, including the seating and shade. Elver Park could also be a space for family gatherings or any sort of event. Elver Park also has a splash pad, which is great, especially for the summer. And now we'll transition to Rain Garden's inspiration.
Now, like Moore mentioned before, one of our main concerns on why we wanted to suggest a rain garden was because of flooding and runoff. No, sorry, flooding and road salt. These two affect creek ringer by increasing salinity levels and can cause expensive future damages. Overall, what a rain garden does is it filtrates pollutants like the road salt and it decreases the flooding. We got inspired by the rain garden outside of the Wilmar Center to reduce this because we consider this to be a really hard problem. And now I'm going to move on to the conclusion.
We realized that on this site there's probably going to be housing built there, but we were asked as the youth what we think would be best for the South Side community. We came up with the idea of having a community center for not only teens and kids, but for other people of the community, so they can all have a safe space they can go to and somewhere where they can just go have fun and interact with each other. We want the community center to engage community like socialness and be able to come together, do things, and just have fun all around. We also feel that this will reduce crime in the area since kids would now have a place to go to, so they don't have to be outside in the streets just doing whatever. When we came with the idea of having a community center, it reminded me of when me and my friends used to go to our little community center and go and play basketball, play video games after school, and just have fun. It kept us out of trouble. They provided us with a lot of opportunities, like finding jobs, helping us with internships, and we feel like if the kids had this type of opportunity, it would help them become more successful in the future. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you guys so much. You did a fantastic job. We are now going to have about 10 minutes for questions from you all. So does anyone have any questions for the interns on their presentation? Yes.
Yeah, great job. I did have a question on the one about crime. There was something called community type crime. I was wondering what that's.
So you're asking about what is community type crime?
Yeah, oh, society related, yeah. Oh, right.
So a society-related violating, a society-related verified criminal offense is an offense that doesn't just affect an individual person or like an individual thing. It spreads out a lot. Like drug dealing, it could ruin entire communities. Whereas stuff like theft, it really affects the person that's getting something stolen from them. So that's where I see the difference between society-related offenses and the other two.
Thank you.
My question, a little bit along the lines of hers. Also, again, great job to all of you. Where did you get some of your data from? Can you talk about that?
Can we go to the sources slide? All right. So for history and context, we just looked online to find sources about the history. But for data, we mainly use the census data, a lot of which we got from the Madison neighborhood indicator, which you can select a specific area, a census tract, split it up compared to other census tracts or compared to the city of Madison, and like filter through categories. So that helped us a lot. We also use census.gov for our census data. And that link down there is just the story where I got my study thing. For the site analysis, we use the city of Madison's official website to get some of that data. And for design, we just use Google Maps, Canva, and Google Forms.
Thank you so much.
I think I saw your hand first.
So I noticed that many of you mentioned apartments or having housing in that area as being possibly what the city's going to do, and I feel like all of you are thinking that's really on the book for that. So my question is, like, if you put in a giant apartment building there or something, like I know some of the different apartment buildings in town are now having the first floor dedicated either to shops or to childcare like Andre on East Washington has the red caboose in it. So if you were going to like give advice to the city, like about what could be in the first floor of an apartment building there that would really be useful to the community, which of the things that you have selected would you suggest to them? Like what is the most important aspect?
Yeah, like we said with housing, we think housing is going to be here because it is more profitable. And even with that, we think it's still important to implement some of the features, specifically for young people, as they don't really have a lot of spaces in the South Side area to access to just have fun or interact with other people. So we think having some sort of space like a playground or like a splash pad for them to use just so they can interact with other people in the community, I think that would be really beneficial.
Mostly what we did was also think about the youth and the community because it's not often like thought about when it comes to constructing and building new places for the city. And yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, doing all good job, but have you talking to any city officials, where's the funding is gonna be coming to pay for the proposal that you are talking about?
Like I mentioned earlier, we understand that housing is most likely going to be placed on this site. However, we think it's still more important for some sort of community space to be here for young people. Even we think that it's worth the investment to put something for the youth here, regardless if housing is coming here or not. And we think that this would be more beneficial for the youth to use in some sort of way.
Slide design is really exceptional this year. I'd like to know more about how you guys came to the fonts, the background, drawings, and it really looks sharp.
I would say we collaborated with each other. So we have 4 different committees. I was a part of the design committee. We decided that we wanted to have something like sort of relating to what we're doing, which is why we want to have like buildings in the background and some light colors, just to make things stand out, as well as using images for each of the slides to show that representation of what we're proposing.
It also took a lot of communication between us and the different cohorts that we had and a lot of feedback from our peers. So yeah, pretty much team building to stick up to that.
Go ahead. I was gonna say more of a comment. I really did also appreciate the slides as well. The information was really accurate. As somebody who does live on the south side in those areas as well, I do like this suggestion of being added in, because I do agree there is instances where there is just a lack of access to these spaces. For you all, I'm assuming you all have gone there and visibly seen it for yourself. Did any of you want to share any of the things that you saw while you were there, or that kind of led you to make this decision?
Well, pretty much when we went there, we just looked around and we decided as a group what we were gonna put in the slides. Like we liked the community. Sometimes the community wasn't the best, or the overall building was outdated. Like we seen, it looks more like a school than what we wanted to look like for people to like actually appreciate and come and join us. So I think it was more of a it was more of like a field trip for us, like a school field trip to go around the building and just look around. Yeah.
So my question, first thing, so kind of building on the other thing, when you guys had differences of opinion, or about how to go forward, how did you deal with it? And then I'll ask my last question.
Well, we put all the opinions on the table and we kind of like voted which one would benefit us more and which one would our staff like the most. And also we took a look at how it would look like in the screen, because in our computers it looks totally different by the like how it actually looks in the projector, so that kind of played along a lot. And I think just communication, like in general, like sometimes I would have disagreements or other people would have disagreements, and just getting to find a common mistake or a common thing that we like could get us to landing onto what we have right now.
So the last thing is, it's quick. It's a quick 9 weeks, and you guys did a lot of work. It shows in terms of your dedication. I guess my question is, how did you grow? And what did you learn about yourselves, about the relationship with the city, about this process? What did you learn throughout that 9 weeks?
I think we sort of learned how to work together in a group, and if we do come to disagreements, instead of getting like offended by it, we've sort of learned to sort of set aside our feelings about something to see like the truth of something. Does that make sense at all? I feel like it does. Any other questions?
Time for one more question.
You guys did a fantastic job, amazing ideas. The visuals were so clear. For each one of you spoke so clearly. I'm curious, any of you are interested in pursuing urban planning when you are done with high school?
Actually, yeah, I am. I don't know who else is interested in that in our group. I feel like a lot of people would be. Anyways, yeah, this is something that I want to do when I am an adult, and I think that this program has really helped me sort of further that sort of hone that interest. Is that okay?
You all can head back to your seats and let go a big sigh of relief. All right, I'm going to welcome our next group up. So would our interns presenting on the Port St. Vincent de Paul site head on up to the front.
Hello, everyone. Today we're here to present the Port St. Vincent de Paul proposal. I'm Jose. I go to Memorial, and I'll let my peers introduce themselves now.
My name is Milani, and I go to Memorial.
My name is Celine and I go to West. My name is Sadie, I go to Capitol High. I'm Nevaeh, I go to East High School.
My name is Delia, and I go to East High School.
My name is Aizan and I go to East.
My name is Madison, I go to West High School. My name is Selena, I go to West.
My name is Elena, I go to La Follette.
My name is Megan, I go to East.
My name is Rihanna and I go to La Follette.
My name is Antoine, I go to West.
My name is Alexa, I go to Memorial.
I'm Shalom, and I go to Memorial. For our agenda today, we'll start off with intro, proposition, history, data, site analysis, then move on to our vision, proposal, inspiration, then conclusion. First of all, we all want to Fullmore work together to discover solutions that better strengthen our community as a whole. And one of those steps we take is understanding urban planning, which is a process of designing and regulating the land of use and building environment within cities and towns in order to improve the life of others. And another thing we did was go through different placements throughout the cities, parks event, civic engagement, leadership, and Madison Police Department, and so many more. But to start off with the most important thing today, our proposal. We'd like to create a space that includes mixed income housing, and a shared community that includes a community garden, playground, and underground parking. And throughout the presentation, we'll go over the history of the site, data analysis, and other key information that supports the proposal. Then we'll move on to our vision, which connects our proposal. And to start off, we start with history.
For some context, this site is located on the east side near Willie Street. I'll start by stating each building sizes. 1312 East Wilson Street measures 637 square feet and is a residential-based property. 221 South Baldwin Street measures 2,904 square feet and is a commercial-based property. Lastly, 215 South Baldwin Street is a residential property measuring 1,332 square feet and with a lot size of 3,828 square feet. Now they will be talking about each building timeline starting with 1312 East Wilson Street.
Despite the lack of property public records, we were able to find some info about the building through our research. Site 1312 East Wilson Street was created for residential use in 1890. It was renovated in 1960 and was then sold to Commonwealth during the early spring of 2025. Now, Rayana will fill you in on the background and the history of the largest building of the site, 221 South Baldwin Street.
This building was originally constructed in 1902 in the commercial vernacular style and was first used as a large retail building. It was later redeveloped into a men-only homeless shelter operated by St. Vincent de Paul. The shelter was open daily, offering meals, showers, laundry, and overnight stays with a 60-day yearly limit. However, it was closed in 2018 due to financial strain and challenges with the homeless population. In spring 2025, Commonwealth purchased the building along with 2 other buildings on the property. Now, onto the last building with Megan.
I am talking about 215 South Baldwin Street. It was first constructed in 1874 as an ice cream shop, utilizing a commercial style of architecture and traditional building materials. In 1972, it was demolished and rebuilt into a single-family home. It is now run down and owned by Commonwealth since spring of 2025. However, it is also important to recognize that the legacy of these 3 buildings is being a place of where people could go and live. That's what they were shelters. And so it is important for us to remember that as we make our design for these sites. Now on to Alana for data.
Port St. Vincent de Paul is located in Block Group 3 of Census Tract 19.01. Census Tract 19.01 is highlighted on the map and our site is marked by a star. Census Tract 19.01 is split into 4 block groups, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and for this research, we summarize data from all 4 block groups. Looking at demographic data of our site and comparing it to the city can provide useful context as well as point out flaws that our area may have that our project can focus on. This is part 1 of demographics, which includes race, age, and income. So when researching racial diversity, the most interesting thing I noticed was that Census Tract 19.01 is 79% white, which is 10 percentage points more than the city of Madison. For the 4,232 people in Census Tract 19.01, 9.1% are seniors, which is people 65 years old or older, while the city overall is 13.1% seniors. The median age of the population of our census tract is 29.5 years old compared to Madison's 32.5. And also, if you look at the pie charts, you can see that the one for Census Tract 19.01 is very skewed younger. People ages 20 to 49 taking out most of the space, and then there being a bit cut off at younger and older populations. On Madison's, to compare, is way more consistent throughout. Also, the rate of non-family households in our census tract is 64% compared to Madison's 39. The median household income for the census tract is $77,363, while Madison's is $70,484. So all this data basically leads us to conclude that the population around our site is primarily consists of white young adult to middle-aged single people or couples with no children that make more than the average resident of the city of Madison, which therefore points towards a need in diversity in race, age, income, as well as families with children. And now into part 2.
Next, let's dive into how Census Tract 19.01 compares to the rest of Madison in terms of education and employment. Starting with education, in Tract 19.01, about 39% of people have a bachelor's degree or higher compared to the city of Madison at about 59%. This is a pretty big gap and could reflect differences in access to higher education or resources. In Tract 19.01, about 29% of residents are enrolled through K-12 compared to 36% in Madison overall. When looking at employment, things get more complex. Tract 19.01 actually have a higher employment rate at about 83% compared to 69.9% in Madison. This might seem positive at first, but when we check the unemployment rate, 19.01 is at a higher rate than Madison. This tells us that more people who are working, that there may be less stability or access to higher quality jobs in this neighborhood. Overall, this slide gives us a deeper view of some challenges this neighborhood might be facing regarding education and job opportunities. Although people are working, there may not be the same level of stability or access to other parts of Madison.
The Point St. Vincent site is in 2 zoning codes, NMX and TRC4, or neighborhood mixed use and traditional residential respectively. It is surrounded by zoning like traditional shopping street, traditional employment, and planned development. Neighborhood mixed use primarily focuses on uplifting and maintaining commercial nodes in residential areas so that people can get what they need. Those needs include things like stores, office space, recreation, community gardens, and residential, as NMX does conditionally allow multi-family dwelling units. Traditional residential, however, primarily focuses on uplifting and maintaining residential areas by keeping them for housing, with some conditional uses for things like retail and services, though it is important to note that it primarily focuses on uplifting single-family homes. Now on to Eyes On with housing.
The housing data shows how there's a lack of affordable housing. This is represented by 2 things. First off, there is a higher renting rate in our census tract, which means that the area is mostly apartments and that there's less affordable apartments. That's represented by both the graphs. As you can see on my left, you can see how there's a higher renting rate compared to the city of Madison. And on my right, you can see how there's not as much affordable apartments compared to the city of Madison. Secondly, there isn't a lot of housing since the area is mostly apartments. And what is there is not very affordable. As Elena said, the median income of the area is around $80,000, which doesn't give people of low income a lot of options. But that can all change with these apartments. With these apartments, we could finally add mixed income housing, which would drag in people of low income and finally give them more options for living in the area. This would give the area a new demographic and make the area feel a whole lot more inclusive by adding more giving the area a better racial background, which would just be extremely beneficial for the area and give the area a much better demographic. Now moving on to site analysis.
Our site analysis includes surrounding area, SWOT, and transportation. Here's a look at the surrounding area of our site marked by the yellow star. We use color-coded arrows to show what's nearby. Pink arrows show schools, green arrows show parks, orange arrows point to food, and blue arrows show other nearby resources and fun spots. Starting with the pink arrows, this area is really surrounded by schools. Just southeast of the site is Marquette Elementary School, and directly next to it is Georgia O'Keeffe Middle School. Then about a 5-minute drive further out east is Madison East High School. This shows that this area is surrounded by K-12 schools, which makes the area very family and youth-oriented. Next are the green arrows, which show parks and outdoor spaces. Just west is McPike Park, which is the closest park to our site, and it also includes a skate park, making it a great spot for recreation and community events. Then north of our site, just a 5-minute bike, is Tenney Park, one of Madison's most popular parks, known for its lagoons, trails, and open space. Then we have Burr Jones Park at number 6 and Orton Park at number 7, which is Madison's oldest park, surrounded by a historic neighborhood and often used for community festivals and events. Now looking at the orange arrows, which represent food. At number 8, we have Willie Street Co-op, and just a 10-minute bus away is Festival Foods. Both of these are grocery stores and located fairly close to our site, which makes access to food convenient. However, it's important to note neither of these grocery stores are particularly affordable. Outside of those two, this area is surrounded by a wide variety of restaurants, coffee shops, and local spots. Then we have the blue arrows, which represent other nearby resources and fun spots in the area. At number 10, we have Aftershock Arcade, which adds a little entertainment into the mix. Then at number 11, we have the Madison Enterprise Center, which is a business incubator helping local entrepreneurs get their start. And lastly, there's one more research center called MADAM, which provides skills, experiences, and connections to pursue STEM careers for the youth. So overall, the area surrounding our site has a mix of schools, parks, resource centers, food, and entertainment, making it a really vibrant and community-centered part of Madison. Now we'll be moving on to SWOT, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Thank you for that information, Delia. We'll be moving on to analysis. One of the things that really stands out in this neighborhood is how walkable it is and how much it encourages a sense of community. The skate park, for example, it's more than just a place to hang out. It's a hub where people can connect. But while there's a strong sense of community, there are also some challenges. Access to basic needs like a nearby pharmacy and affordable grocery stores is limited. The area isn't very diverse, which can affect how it feels to everyone. That said, there are many opportunities to grow on. Local resources like the food bank, walkable parks, and small businesses. We also need to think ahead about rising costs and development that might push people out instead of bringing them in, and staying aware of displacement that can push longtime residents out. A big part of this conversation is how people move through and access the neighborhood. So now I'll pass it off to Sadie, who will talk more about transportation.
This site is highly accessible with a bus stop along Williams Street at East Baldwin, just a 2-minute walk away from the site. Serving Route 38C for convenient public transit. A protected bike lane runs along Wilson Street, providing a safe and efficient option for cyclists. Additionally, the bus rapid transit station at Baldwin, serving lines A and B, is only about a 0.2 or 5-minute walk away from the site, offering fast, reliable citywide connections. Wide pedestrian-friendly sidewalks further enhance walkability and support a vibrant streetscape for residents and visitors. However, there are currently no protected crosswalks in the immediate area, which may pose safety concerns for pedestrians crossing busy intersections. Moving on to proposal, inspiration, and vision.
Our vision for Port St. Vincent is to cultivate an environment of connection and inclusion. As part of our vision, we are in strong support of creating affordable housing units that align with one's income and services to encourage welfare and benefit to support a stable and healthy family life. And now on to Milani, who will share our proposal.
Before moving on to the proposal, I just wanted to give a reminder that there are 2 zoning codes that apply to 2 parcels on our site. The 2 houses are currently zoned traditional residential, while the main Port St. Vincent building is currently zoned neighborhood mixed use. Our proposal would require that the whole entire property be rezoned to neighborhood mixed use. We would also require that each building on the property be demolished due to its deteriorating condition. Now on to our proposal. Our proposal for this site is to build living units that include mixed income housing so people of different incomes can afford to live here. We also wanted to add a playground on the site because even though McPike Park and Madison Skate Park are across the street, there isn't a well-designated area for families with children to play. We also wanted to add a community garden where people can grow their own fruits and vegetables. It will be a nice way for the residents there to become more sustainable and connect together as a community. Lastly, we'd include underground parking to keep the area looking acceptable and to save space. The building would have 3 floors. The first floor would serve as community area that would have a gym, couches, and a coffee table and other shared amenities, while the upper 2 floors would serve as housing units with approximately 6 to 10 living units of different sizes. This layout keeps the overall height appropriate for the area and ensures that the building won't block sunlight from nearby properties. Now I will be going over the benefits and challenges of our proposal. Some of the benefits include adding mixed-income housing, which can bring in people from different backgrounds and prevent people from being displaced by increasing rent in other areas. We also plan to add a playground and community garden so neighbors can connect and feel more together like a community. Another benefit is underground parking, which could keep the streets less crowded and safer. The last benefit I will be discussing is the nearby schools. Since our proposal wants these units to be specifically for families, it is important that there are schools nearby. Luckily, Marquette Elementary, Georgia O'Keeffe Middle School, and Madison East High School are all not too far from our site. Now I'll be moving on to the challenges of our proposal. The first one I will be discussing is the potential pushback of our proposal. Some neighbors might be worried about the increase in traffic, noise from construction, or that the building won't match the look of the area. People may also worry about new renters or low-income families moving in, or that the playground could possibly be noisy. Another challenge is that there could be a risk of property values increasing in that neighborhood. Adding affordable housing to a neighborhood can increase property values by improving the area as it would be a new building, which can attract new residents. And then when the area looks better and feels safer, more people want to live there. And we just wanted to consider that as a factor. The last challenge I'll be discussing is that the garden and share spaces will need regular care to keep everything looking clean and looking presentable. Now on to our inspirations.
Our proposal was shaped around 3 main sources of inspiration, those of which guided our vision for creating inclusive and family-oriented housing. Starting at Bayview Apartments. What really stood out to us about Bayview Apartments is the way it was arranged. It's not just about placing buildings side by side. The layout is very thoughtful. It brings a sense of openness while also encouraging neighbors to connect with one another. We took inspiration from that when thinking about our final layout of our site, focusing on shared spaces and how the community will engage with each other. Next is Albert Parks. What we admire most about Albert Park's playground is how accessible the space is. There are many ramps leading to the countless activities on the ground floor and on the park. There's also an accessible swing set, which adds on to how accessible the space is. Albert Park's playground creates a space where families and friends can hang out and enjoy spending time outdoors. Everything I talked about are all elements that we want to include in our proposal's playground, but condensed, since we know Albert Park's playground is quite bigger than our proposals. All in all, we want our proposal's playground to feel welcoming, safe, and have a big sense of community like Albert Park's. Last is our last inspiration, Montgomery Park Community Garden Program. We took a liking to this program because it uses green space to bring people together. It's not just a place to grow food, it's a place to grow relationships, feel connected, and take pride in being an active member in your community. All those ideas resonated with our goals for creating a welcoming, affordable, and sustainable community garden. We just want a community garden where everyone feels included and supported. Now, that's all I have for our inspirations. Now, I'll pass it on to Delia to conclude our presentation.
In the end, we believe that our proposal would be most beneficial to this site because we know that affordable housing is such a need in Madison and because it will provide a sense of community as well. The benefits of our proposal completely outweigh the challenges. And now with that said, thank you all for listening and we hope that you take our ideas into consideration.
All right, thank you all so much. You guys did an awesome job. And now we have about 10 minutes for questions. What questions do you all have for them? Yes, go ahead.
really enjoyed the presentation as well. Similar to the last group, can one of you talk about the data you use to make your proposal?
So basically, a lot for our data was mostly stuff like the Census Bureau and using like census data for like the official city. We got a lot of information about the people that live there from that, about the overall makeup of the area, just kind of seeing what was needed. That's how I got a lot of my data for the housing and also just other stuff that we found. But yeah, I was mostly just using like city government, like official websites to get our website or to get our data. But yeah, that's really mostly what we used.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's great. I like that you included inspiration. And I'm wondering on the inspiration playground, was that like an accessible playground?
Yes, so for the inspiration of Albert Parks, I brought it up because the space is incredibly accessible for everyone. And that's what we want for our playground, since some people aren't as capable as others. So we want the place to feel included for everyone. Mhm.
I see a hand all the way in the back. No, that's you, sir. Yep, sorry.
Just wondering, among all of you and in the first group, how did you choose which project you were going to work on?
How did you choose?
Personally, for me, I chose to work on Port St. Vincent because I think there are more ideas to be incorporated just because of how free, like, let's just, give me a second. It's a very rundown area, right? So let's be honest, like there's not much hope for those buildings to actually stay in that site area. So if we get rid of those buildings, it would be basically a blank slate for people to work on.
To add on to that, I think I also agree with that. There's just a lot more like ability and thought process that, or not as much thought process that goes into it, but it was a lot more simple to decide what to do with it and to like decide to tear it down. I also think that like personally for me, I chose to do Port St. Vincent because I didn't really know like what to do with the labor temple. It wasn't very like clear what the instructions were or what to do with the area. But I just knew when I first went to the Port St. Vincent site, I was like, okay, these buildings need to get torn down. You need to make some like affordable housing there, right? And as I looked more into the data, I kind of just honed my interest in doing the Port St. Vincent site, and yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I felt like a little bit more connection to it, and when I first arrived and looked at it, I feel like I could see a lot more like vision, and I feel like that's like your first clue of like some type of, I don't know, a connection to it, but basically I just saw either an apartments or something that could serve the community. And I think we did have like a little bit of hiccups because it was more of how are we going to serve it and what could do good for that community. And I think at the end, we're here now. So.
Go ahead, sir, and then.
So you talked a lot about like the strengths, you talked about weaknesses as well, but I was wondering if, one of your slides talked about pushback, but which ones of the strengths for your proposal do you think are most important to cover and for the case that there could be pushback?
So since we wanted these apartments to be affordable, we knew that a lot of people in this area wouldn't really appreciate that since this is a higher income neighborhood where the houses sell for more. So we know that a lot of people in the area wouldn't really appreciate that idea because that's just not what they're used to. That's not what they would want for that area. So we knew that the pushback could potentially be a very difficult process to deal with because of the residents.
I just want to add on that I did speak to a community member of the area. Her name was Stephanie. She's the owner of one of the owners of Mother Fool's Coffee House and part of the Social Justice Center. She herself said there would be pushback on affordable housing in that area simply because people don't want that in their backyard.
I'm so proud of this program is being recognized. And you guys have done such a job. I am so impressed. I can tell you, each of you are going to go far. I can't wait to tell the former mayor who named this program after me because I am so proud and I love you all. I am so impressed. And you guys are going to go far. I can see Mayor Alder, something with your data. And I grew up in South Madison, went to Franklin, went to Lincoln, and Memorial, graduated, but on high school education. So what you guys all put out here to us today, I am so proud. And I cannot wait to share it with everybody. And I love you all, and I wish you guys the best. Thank you.
We still have time for questions. That wasn't quite the end. Colleen, I think I saw your hand.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen. It's really hard to follow Ms. Fullmore. But just thanks for this. So I live just a few blocks from Port, and so it was really great to see this. And I heard a little bit from Megan. Megan worked with Union Traffic Engineering about this proposal. So I do want to say this is great. I think you are correct. You're going to get pushback. I've lived in that neighborhood for 20 plus years, and it's really hard. We've got a lot more what they call YIMBY folks moving into our neighborhood that do want this kind of these kind of buildings built in the neighborhood. So I really do appreciate it. Another question I would have, and maybe Megan, because you said you talked to Stephanie Rear, who's one of the owners of Wanda Fullmore and actually just lives right down the street from this proposal. What did she mention about, because I know we're having a lot of conflicts in our neighborhood right now with the Social Justice Center and immediate neighbors. There's just a lot going on there, not with the Social Justice Center, but with some of the unhoused folks who are having definitely some mental health issues, some addiction issues, and people are feeling unsafe in their neighborhood. Did she touch on that at all? And was there anything you looked at regarding this new proposal?
Well, she mentioned that that the unhoused folks, they have been being harassed by the police and that people have been calling the cops on them. It's been really difficult recently for the homeless population that is near Willie Street. So this would be a space of healing, which is something we didn't really touch on, but I think it's important to recognize that this would be utilizing trauma-informed design simply by nature of it being a very community-oriented space. But yes, she did mention how people have been being harassed because they are homeless, and that is something that this project would hope to address.
So I'll put a twist on the same question I asked the other day, but instead of, how do you deal with, how do you come up with it, I guess, what was one time or one thing that happened when you guys were getting ready for this, that you guys had to come together and figure out a way forward? So one point of contention, one point of difference, and how do you guys deal with it?
I think the moment where we all had to come together to kind of figure out our final proposal and come up with our final idea was when we actually went to go when we went to go visit the sites, we had to kind of all come together as a group and be like, okay, what are we gonna do with this site, and come up with like an actual design that we had to like hand draw. And that was kind of the moment when we finally came up with our final design and came up with our final proposal, and all finally put like our differences aside and agreed on a single proposal that was effective and served the community.
So the same thing, I guess, it's been a quick 9 weeks. What did you learn about yourselves, about the process, about your relationship with the city?
Truly, I think I learned more about myself and how much I really enjoy urban planning. It's not exactly my career choice, but it's something that I do like and I find inspiration to. But I think just presenting helped me, as most have said, hone in to it and help me benefit, not just for Wanda Fullmore, but throughout my life. So I'm very grateful for this program and opportunities I got to experience as a city attorney intern that I did. I learned so much, and that really helped me find my passion that I did not know about last summer. So thank you.
Personally, for me, problem solving and coming together as a team was a challenge that we all had to face. And I think losing the idea of that your idea is the only idea you can have, and that you can also incorporate, you can have your idea, but to incorporate pieces from different people's ideas and to make sure that everyone has a say into what you're doing and that no one's left out, and just all coming together and having at least something that we all agree upon, then we can build up from there.
Oh, one more question? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
On your SWOT analysis slide real quick, under opportunities, I'm a native of Milwaukee, and some of the residential apartments will have like a grocery store on the bottom floor. You mentioned about that bottom floor of the building being like that kind of recreational space. Did the idea of something commercial ever come up in group discussions, or did you all want to just kind of move from that idea being used in this kind of space?
Could you do you want to answer?
I guess it wasn't really a thing we genuinely considered it being a commercial space. We wanted the spaces there to be for the community and not run by somebody who wants to make a profit. We were more thinking, how can we make this for like a mixed use area instead of like a corporate area? And that's really what we thought about. We didn't really think about putting a grocery store, though that is a good idea.
Got time for maybe one more question? I think I saw a hand back there.
Since the other group can ask questions specifically about the presentation, when I was on, you were on the slide with the map on it, and I'm trying to place things on it. I felt a little disoriented, and then I noticed the lower right corner. Was there a reason for choosing the north orientation being down rather than up?
So I made this slide and it took a lot of time. I'm sorry that I didn't catch that the picture was upside down last second, but it all works out at the end because it's formatted how it's formatted. I think it looks pretty nice. And I'm not saying you didn't say it, but yeah, The north arrow is facing down because it just fits everything in in a nicer way, I guess. And yeah, that is why the map is upside down.
All right, you guys can go ahead and take a seat. All right, I just want to have another huge round of applause for our interns today. They did such a fantastic job. I feel like such a proud mom today. I'm getting a little teary over in the corner. They are setting up lunch right now. We have catering from Melly Mel's. So we will break for that in just a minute here, and then we will come back together at 1 for a few guest speakers, and then our final graduation and passing out certificates for our interns to wrap up the day. But you all did such an amazing job. I am so proud of each and every one of you, and I know our wonderful graduate assistants from UW's urban planning program are also very proud of you in the back and getting teary. I can feel it from here. And Kalia is also very proud of you all. So just wait on a minute for lunch, but go ahead, chat, congratulate our interns once again, and thank you all for being here.